Quick question. When do you know it's time to end the relationship? Like, when do you realize it's done? You're ready to break up and you need to move on. In this relationship, I want to share with you the number one reason why you should fire your firm. And I'm going to cover how to find it out and how to have that conversation. My name is Pablo Alejo, and I'm your co-pilot. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video with Copilot, a YouTube channel to help organizations thrive by orienting around what matters most, your customers and your people. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about when you should fire your consulting firm. And when you put it in the context of how you are successful in your digital transformations or really any initiative, there are the things that come to mind. And I'm going to kind of cover what those are, but I want to really get into the one thing that really is probably the most important thing that you need to be aware of in looking at your firm to figure out, yeah, it's time to move on. So I'm going to jump right into this and start talking about the things that everyone knows about. Those typical things. The first one being not adding value. Now, this one's easy. If your firm is doing things that you can do or doing things that are not providing the outcomes that you're looking for, it's time to move on. And so, make sure that when you're looking at your relationships with the partners you have, they all should be adding value to your business and to you. Then at the same time, a really easy one is putting you or your organization at risk of any kind. This is an easy one to find. When organizations make poor decisions and firms help in making those poor decisions, they put you at risk. They put you at risk at failure. They put you at risk at spending and wasting a lot of money. And they've really put your success at risk of being, a thriving organization. Those are easy things to spot and easy enough, move on from that firm. The last thing is just not being forthright. I think this one's pretty easy as well. When an organization says they're going to do something and they do not, that's pretty simple. You paid for this and you got this. Well, it's time to move on. So those are the simple things. Those are the typical things you see. But I want to focus on the one thing. The one thing that you might not know much about or hear much about. Honestly, I actually started Googling and I didn't find anything about this one thing. And yet to me, if this is not happening, then you've got a problem and you need to address it immediately. And that one is when you have a partner that does not push back and avoids having hard conversations. I'm going to say that again, just so you can make sure that you understand what I'm saying. If you have a partner that does not push back on you and is avoiding having hard conversations, that is not the partner for you. You need to think about how to move on from that. And the reason why is very simple. Every organization is full of human beings, and there is not one human being that is perfect. Therefore, we all make bad decisions. And that's why great leaders look for people who push back. If you look through the greatest leaders of any organizations, the best ones are the ones that empower people around them to ensure and make sure that what they're doing is right. And when it's not, hold them accountable. Make sure they get the pushback. Have those hard conversations that are needed in order to be able to avoid the risks that are potential out there. And what typically happens is that you get an organization that will just do anything you say. And that is probably the worst thing you could ever get into, is when you have a partner that just says, yes, I will do exactly this, and write it down and go off and do it. Because you're not always right. And that may not be the easiest thing to hear, but it is 100% true. I'm not always right. And I have really great people around me to make sure that I am always checked. And I push on my team to ensure that I get that constant feedback. No one needs constant people saying yes to them. I promise you, if you do, you are setting yourself up for a catastrophic failure. And so be sure that when you're thinking about the partners you have, you need people that push back on you. Questions that you should be asking yourself, though, really relate around why. Why is this happening? Why do you not get the pushback you need? A lot of it comes down to fear. Every organization wants to be profitable. That's the purpose of most organizations, is to generate enough revenue to keep moving on. And so therefore, there is an incentive for organizations to continue a relationship with you so that they have constant revenue coming in. Every organization would love that 5-year deal that enables them to make plans and figure out how they're going to staff and add value to your organization. The problem with that is that they're not looking just to stay around until they fix that one problem. Most organizations, name any consultancy, and there's a model there where they will land and expand, and it's a typical kind of strategy that every consulting firm has, which is this idea where we come in, we try to solve a problem, and then we find other places where we can add value. Now, a lot of organizations don't necessarily add value though, and that is where this comes in. When you're not pushing back, you're not adding value. When you have a partner that is constantly just doing what you ask, they're not really trying to help you solve a problem, they're just trying to get paid. And you do not need a partner like that. No one needs a partner like that. You need partners that help you get better. And that is crucial. And the best way to do that is to get that pushback, is to have those hard conversations. So the question you should ask yourself is, why? What about this relationship has created or has been created that is enabling these types of behaviors? And once you understand, what the motivation is, then you can really attack that at the root. Sometimes though, it's you. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, is this me? Did I create this? Did I create a situation where my partners do not feel safe by pushing back on me? Have I ever made a situation where I have made them feel that if they do not agree with me, they're gone? If that is the case, then that is something you need to work on. That is something that you have to look at and internalize and figure out, how can you change that? Because you need people who push back. And so when you are looking at your partners, you need to figure out how to make this right. But how do you find out if someone is just taking a paycheck from you? How do you find out if someone is just going to do what you say? This one's actually pretty simple. Create an ask, whether it's an RFP or a request, and either ask your current partner or just send an RFP out to different partners. Ask for something that is intrinsically wrong or has some major flaw in it. A simple example, create me a CRM, begin development, and I want this done in 3 months. Something that's short term, that requires nothing but immediate, acceptance and movement on. Any organization that comes in and says, absolutely, we'll come in and we'll deliver this without asking where your strategy is, without pushing you to have a strategy, they're not the company that you want to work with. At that point, take those RFP responses, throw them away. But if there's a firm that says, hey, I get that you want to hit the ground running and you want to build this CRM and you want to get this out the door, but in order to do that, you need to make sure that it's founded on a solid strategy, you should have a conversation with them. You should try to understand what they mean by that. Because any organization that does not take your request at face value and immediately responds with yes, they're probably going to be the type of organization that gets you the right types of responses and the right answers to the right solutions, or the right solutions to the right problems, so that you can be successful. So very easy to find out is just quickly ask something that you should not do. And that is generally just act without thinking about it. Many firms will respond and say, absolutely, we will just get on that and make it happen. Those are the firms you do not want to work with. So be on the mind and be on the lookout for that. But what do you do when you find out? Like, once you realize that you've got a partner that is going to just do everything you say, well, you kind of have some choices. The first one is, you got to ask yourself, do you want to continue this relationship? In other words, is this the type of firm that is going to help you get you where you want to be? And for some of these questions, it could be a simple yes. Absolutely. I look at this firm and say, yeah, this is the kind of partner that I need because they have the right capabilities, or I actually like these people, which that's critical. If you like working with these people, then it is, it's okay to want to figure out how to extend this relationship. Otherwise, if it is a situation where you look at this and you know what, there are other people who could do this better, then it's time for you to just cut your loss and say, thank you very much and have a great day. But how do you actually have that conversation? I'm gonna talk you through that. There's this wonderful book, Crucial Conversations. It's by Kerry Patterson, Joseph Grenny, Ron McMillan, and Al Switzer. If you've not read this, I highly recommend go to Amazon, get it, audiobook, physical, whatever form, this is a great book. Because what it talks about are the ways that you have crucial conversations. Crucial conversations are really a strategic imperative when it comes to just having a thriving business. Because not every conversation is going to be easy. Most conversations are going to be the kind where you need to sit back and think about what you're about to say. Words matter. And being able to think through the right conversation to have with the people that you're talking to is going to help you better understand how to be successful. So when you're trying to have that conversation with someone that is you want to keep, let me kind of break down some things you should be thinking about. The first thing is to prepare. I never go into a crucial conversation blind. I never go in just with an idea. I typically actually start writing things down, figuring out how I'm going to have this conversation. The first thing that I actually try to understand is I define what the problem I see is. So in this situation, it is you will do everything I say exactly how I say it and you will not push back. That is a problem. I need partners that push back for this reason. 1, 2, 3, whatever that means for you. You need to define that problem. And once you've defined that problem, then define what healthy and positive pushback needs to be in order for you to thrive. Because sometimes pushback is a little bit difficult. So what are the right ways to push back on you so that you don't just immediately overreact of saying, why are you disagreeing with me? Maybe you have a temper. Maybe you're the type of person that needs certain types of information in order for you to get the right pushback. Everyone is different. I had a client once where if I just outlined the specific data that he needed to see, he was like, makes total sense. And I was able to steer this client away from really bad decisions just by doing that. Other clients, I would have to approach in a very different way. I would have to come in and basically just get them in a Socratic method type style to realize what they were doing was actually going to be detrimental to the project. And so that is, just a different way of thinking. So in doing this, you need to determine what is your style of pushback that you need in order for you to have those healthy conversations so that your teams can give you the right information to be successful. Then write down what does success of this conversation look like. Literally write it down word for word. This, success of this conversation is to blah, whatever that is to have healthy pushback from you and the clients, or is to ensure that we are making the right and best decisions for this program, for this organization. Whichever way that looks, write that down. Then you need to determine who on the other side do you need to be having the conversation with. Now here's the trick. This needs to be a major stakeholder. It needs to be someone who's very senior in this organization. Typically, it's the account director. Sometimes you might need to go up even above that person. If they're the type of person that is just going to do what you say and just write it down and move forward without actually having a hard conversation, you need to speak to someone above them. And I promise you, you're going to get the results you're looking for. The other part of this is it needs to be a one-on-one conversation. This is not a situation where you come into a massive room full of people and just start to throw out dictations. I promise you it will not be a conversation at all. It will just be you talking and people saying, okay. And again, you're just perpetuating the same problem. So you need to be able to have a really good conversation with that one person, one-on-one, no distractions. And the point of it is not to one-up anybody. It's about trying to make sure that you have the right partner to help you be successful. Then once you've defined these things, then have the conversation and you open up with sharing what does success look like for this conversation. Because that way you're letting them know, hey, I want this conversation to go this way. To me, this is success. Do you agree that this is success? Remember, this is the firm that you want to keep. So having this conversation this way will help you better and help them better understand how to, react when you start to have this conversation. Secondly, describe what you're seeing. Describe the situation and why, you see that as a problem. And the third thing, and this is the most important, listen. I'm gonna say that again. Listen. Listening sometimes is the hardest part of any conversation. I'm what they would call a level 2 listener. I think there's like 3 or 4 levels of listening. The first level is where you kind of listen, but you're not there. The second type of listener is someone who is, as you're talking, thinking about how they're going to respond to you. And the third type of listening is someone, as you were talking, they try to analyze what you're saying, and then after you've finished, try to better understand and pull that together and bring, a really good thoughtful response. I think level 4 is someone who actually brings in additional context. So the words that you say they're connecting with other dots. It is something that I've been working on for many years, is how to be a better listener. And sometimes I feel like I get there, but most times I'm just immediately responding. And so, but the goal is to listen, to understand, and then really get to the why. Why is this happening? What do they not trust? Why do they not trust? There's a method called 5 whys, and it's where you basically continue to ask why until you get to the root of the problem. And that is where you truly understand what is driving the behavior that you're seeing, that is this yes person mentality, which you do not want. So always listen, better, asking those questions to better define what that problem is. And I promise you, it will be tremendously valuable. The next thing is define what healthy pushback is and needed to be. This way, you're helping them by defining exactly how they can come to you with the right way to help you better understand what the risks may be, understand what decisions you should be making. Because this way, you're helping them. Not only have you said, hey, this is what I'm seeing, and you've gotten to the root, now let's get to action. Let's turn this into say, this is how we move forward. And once you've done that, then align on that path forward. Align on that path to building trust. Because once you start building trust, then you can start to get the right feedback when you need it, and people are not going to just kind of skirt around these challenges until something, catastrophic happens. Now, let's say that you've gotten to a situation where you realize, okay, this group isn't cutting it and I need to move on. Same concept. You need to prepare first. You need to define those challenges the same way you did in the other one. And then you need to determine who are the internal stakeholders that need to be aligned and aware of what's about to happen. When you fire your firm, it's not always a simple thing. It's not as you just walk in and say, hey, Charlie, you got to go. There's a lot of ramifications. There's a lot of people who are involved. And so by understanding the right stakeholders internally, then having those conversations to make sure that everyone's aligned with this decision, that's going to help you in the further conversations. The next part is align with legal to make sure that there's no legal ramifications of making this, this break. Because sometimes there are. Maybe you've signed a contract that just will not allow you to do the things you need to do. And then you have to find other ways to kind of work around that. So talk to legal, make sure that you understand every bit of those risks so that you can be successful in this conversation. Then define what success looks like. Same principle. Just you want to write this down so that it's very clear. And then determine who is the best person at the firm to have this conversation with. Then when you have that conversation, again, same concept. Hey, I need to open up what success looks like. This is the situation, and generally the way that I would frame this is that there's 2 ways to get to this conversation. The first one is when you've identified a partner that you want to work with and you have the conversation, and then it continues to not be the direction you want to go, then you have this conversation. Then you can say, hey, we outlined and we agreed on what healthy pushback looks like, and you're not doing it. And all I feel is that I'm getting just constant yeses. So we've got to end this. But if this is a firm you're just saying no to right out of the gate, then it's the same. It's a very similar process. Just this time you're not having that background. You're just going right into it. And so by understanding how you're going to frame that is critical in being able to have this conversation in a very productive way. So once you've aligned on how you're going to have this conversation, who you're going to contact with, then you open with that, what success looks like. You can then frame it in just the right way. Hey, Charlie, I thought we had a conversation about what healthy pushback looks like, and I've still not seen it. Therefore, I've concluded that this is not going to be a working relationship, or this is not going to work out for us. Or, hey, Charlie, we've been working together for this amount of time and I'm just not seeing the things I'm looking for. I feel like I need to make a change. Whatever that is, write that down. And that way it's very easy and clear so that there's no confusion going into the conversation. Then describe what you're seeing. Describe what you're continuing to see or what you do see, but make sure that it's outlined and make sure you have evidence. Don't just say, hey, I'm just not seeing these things with no evidence. Write it down. Where have you seen this happen? Where, hey, I asked for this thing, I did not get any pushback. I asked for this thing, I did not get any pushback. I even tested the team by asking for something I knew I shouldn't have, and I did not get any pushback. And when you have that evidence, they can't refute it. There's nothing they can go back and say, well, actually, this one time we were able to do these things. They can't do that. So make sure that you have the right information in front of you so you can have the right conversation. Then align on a path forward. There's not a situation where this conversation just ends and the relationship's over, unless it's just like one person. If it's like a single contractor, then it's a very different thing. But if it's a firm and they generally have teams of people who are working with you, then you're going to have to figure out, what is that exit plan? What's the exit strategy look like? How are you going to find people to replace that group? You need to outline, but do it with them. This doesn't need to be a terrible conversation. This could be a productive conversation for your business. That's what's important. And if they're not, if they're not aligned with that thought, then at the end of the day, you probably made the best decision possible, because they're not looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves. And you do not need a partner like that. But plan out what this next phase looks like of exiting out and finding the right partner so that you can be successful. I hope that was helpful. I know there was a lot there. At the end of the day, it's critical that you have partners that push back. And that's the one thought I want to give you. Yes, there are many reasons why you can, move on from your firm. But the most important one, the one that I rarely see, is this idea of pushback and hard conversations. I've always found that having crucial conversations enable better trust, better partnership, and better outcomes. I've always felt that great tension creates the best work. And that is critical when you're working with your partners trying to transform your organization. Transformation is hard. I've said it before. If it was easy, this channel would not even exist. But it isn't. It is very difficult. And if you're not willing to have those hard conversations, then you're setting yourself up for failure. So as you look at your partners, look at the ones who are always saying yes. Look at the ones who are always pushing back. And the ones who are pushing back, make sure that they're just not being obstinate, but are they pushing back in a healthy way, a way that you need to be pushed, and are helping you avoid those risks, because that's the point of all of this. Great partners ensure that you do not take out, risks that you do not need to take, or risks that will risk your organization. Now there are very healthy risks to take. Creating innovation is a risky thing, but do it in a way that you're not, putting your entire organization at risk. So, make sure that you're aligned in that way. At the end of the day, it's all about having the right partners. It's all about having those people that have your best interest at heart. And the ones that do will, have those conversations. Everyone needs a co-pilot. My name is Pablo Alejo, and I'm going to be yours.